Welcome to the podcast where we talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac, and on the second Paranormal Investigator Roundtable, I am joined by five teams, or five individual members, and also a team. I'll have them introduce themselves. And this is the second Paranormal Investigator Roundtable, and we do appreciate you guys checking in and listening. I will go ahead and allow them to introduce themselves.
Good. Yeah, my name is Chris Plummer.
My name is Haley Grosskopf, and just in general, we're Spencer County Spooky Squad. We're based out of Louisville, Kentucky, and thank you for having us on. We appreciate it.
My name is Abby Robinson.
And Thomas Robinson.
Hi, my name is Kelly. Most people know me as the Paranormal Housewife. I'm currently in Peoria, Illinois. And I'm a paranormal blogger, and my husband and I are also investigators.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shelly. My group is called Ghost Hunters and Paranormal Experiences International, and I'm out of a small town close to Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I'm an intuitive medium, and I've been doing it for over 25 years.
That's your cue, Mike. Yes. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Mike Del Toro. I'm with the team called War Party Paranormal. We cover the whole east coast of Florida and growing. We got about approximately 30 members on our team now, and I'm an investigator and content creator.
Hi, I'm also Mike. Mike Pazinski. I'm part of Isaac's team, Shadow Walker Paranormal, out of North Carolina on the East Coast.
And I'm host and MC Isaac's from Hidden Shadows and part of Shadow Walker Paranormal along with Mike. So we kind of have an advantage over you guys since there's technically one full team in here. I do appreciate you guys coming on. And the whole reason for this whole roundtable in the first place was the idea that since we started the podcast, we've made friends and associates with a lot of different people from our surrounding paranormal communities and paranormal investigators, psychics, mediums, and everyone involving any kind of thing that are technically hidden in the shadows. But these roundtables, me and my Megan decided to create in the first place was because we want to hear from like-minded individuals when it comes to investigating, because me and my wife have been investigating for almost a year now with Mike and his wife, Megan, as well. Funny enough, there's two Megans on our team, which just doesn't make it confusing at all. Yeah. But we wanted to hear from other investigators and other people who've been in the paranormal community longer than us, or maybe not as long, but they have a like-minded sense of mind when it comes to the paranormal and spirits and how to work with and encounter things that we must deal with. But I guess one of the first topics that I want to talk about is attachments. And essentially attachments and how to protect yourself from them. And if you guys ever had an attachment or anything follow you home, and what do you do to prevent such things from following you home? Not everybody at once.
Oh.
Yeah. I thought we were going in order again.
Oh, it's just whoever shoots first.
I'll talk, I guess, if you don't mind. So, me personally, I'm very closed. I know you said you're sensitive and you have some abilities and things like that. Me, I'm very closed off. I'm all about the equipment and things of that nature. I do, obviously I've seen some stuff. So I have this little pendant I wear. I have this bracelet I wear, stuff that was given to me by a psychic medium. And she's given me some stuff that I keep in my pack and in my bag and in my car. But as far as like, on our team, we have a mixture of people. We have investigators, we have psychic mediums, we have a wide variety of people. So I know if I ever do get in trouble, I have somebody to call. I know somebody that can pick and cleanse the area and do those things. We do sage cleansings, and we have somebody on our team doing cleansings after we encounter anything that we might believe is dark. I haven't personally had any attachments or anything like that I've run into yet. It's one of the first questions anybody ever asks me when they find out I do what I do. But right now, believe it or not, I was just on Zoom with my one of my best friends, Joe. Joe hunts ghosts. He's on our team as well, and he is finding out that he has some sensitive properties, and he's really struggling with it because he's having stuff go on at his home. He's picking up EVPs, just listening to other EVPs, and he was telling me just before I got here that he shut Adobe Audition off after he was listening to an EVP, and he heard a voice come through when nothing was open on the just having the headphones on. So he's working with one of our psychic mediums on the team on how to deal with it. So that's what's going on, and that's how I personally haven't had that experience, but I'm watching it with my best friend right now.
I myself, I've never experienced an attachment, and I don't want to. I've actually removed a lot of attachments from many people. And usually what we do whenever we do investigations, because we are all mediums, what we do is we smudge ourselves with white sage. We also ground ourselves, and we also protect ourselves with white light. And I also work with very high beings so that if we deal with any, I don't call them anything other than it's, okay, any of the darks, because you don't want to give them any power, and they feed off the power. So by calling them it's, they're neutral. So that's what we call them. So whenever we run into anything like that, then I work with very high beings that help us with all that.
Yeah.
My approach is a little bit different. I actually do have a spirit that is attached to a ring that I have, but he's a very protective spirit. Excuse me. It was a ring that I got from my father, and the spirit protected my father during the Vietnam War, and while my father was a police officer, and then when my dad gave me the ring, he became protective over me. So he does go on investigations with us and does interact with spirits, showing them how to use the equipment, but he also helps protect us to make sure nothing follows us back to our house. So
as far as I kind of lean a little more towards like Mike was saying, where more like, kind of cloaked in it, just focus more on like the equipment and the evidence and things like that. Mm-hmm. We've not really encountered anybody that we know personally is sensitive or has any form of like capabilities like that. Mm-hmm. So it's not really been a big like portion of the investigations that we have done. I mean, I would imagine we're open to it to the same extent that, the paranormal world is.
Because you consist of a large sum of that.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's not as if we would just disprove that's what I'm looking for. Disprove or remove ourselves from it. It's just something we've not had a lot of like experience with. Yeah. As far as attachments go, me personally, no.
Yeah, same here.
The only thing that I can associate an attachment to myself with is one of our earlier investigations in the year was actually at a local library that we grew up going to. And there is a child spirit that resides there. And I'm actually a preschool teacher. So I made a connection while I was there with him. And the following days after we came back to Louisville and I was going to work just in my house, I was actually babysitting for a family that I've babysat for a few years now. I've never had anything happen in their home or felt like there was a presence with me that I didn't know of, that I couldn't see. But about 3 days after that investigation, Some things started happening in the home, mainly based around children's toys. Like children's toys would continuously go off, and it was always in the same room, same location of the house. And every time I would pass through the threshold of that room, the toys would stop. And this happened 2 or 3 different times throughout the night. That's the only experience I've ever had with what I believe was an attachment. I don't think any of the rest of us.
Well, that and it stopped too after you had
Yeah,
kind
I
of sat there and
felt
told that it had to go
like-
back.
Yeah, just to make myself feel better. I had never experienced anything like it or known anybody to personally experience an attachment. So I just made sure to verbalize before I went to sleep that night that like it could not stay in my presence. It could not follow me.
That it needed to go back home.
Yeah, it needed to go back where it was from. And I addressed him as who I thought he was. So yeah, that's the only experience of an attachment I've ever had, though.
Yeah. And I feel like we've gotten a lot better since then too about saying before we leave investigations,
Yes.
no, you cannot come home. You have to stay here. And I know we've saged our house a few times after investigations too, just to kind of clear anything out that might be hanging around. So
Yeah, I don't think we did that day.
yeah, not that
Not
day.
that
After
day.
that though, we did.
Well, welcome to the group, because that is considered a class of having something follow you home or having an attachment. They do it to me a lot, and to the Megans a lot. So we do almost the same thing on our end when we do investigations. A lot of prayer to a lot of things. My religion's not stuck in a box. It is all religions as one, meaning something higher than we can understand. I like the comment that Shelly made. We do use higher beings. Just so you can put a name on what they are, I call them angels. That would be the closest man's thinking to wrap itself around what they are. We use higher beings as well in the white light to flush everything out, to kind of protect ourselves. We use a lot of stones. I use a lot of symbolism, kind of like your medallions, your chains and things like that, your St. Christopher's crucifixes, things like that. Big on Odin, Archangel Michael, runes, things of that nature. And then Isaac as well. We've been working on our the way that we've been fitting in, because we are kind of a new team together. We are a little seasoned outside of each other, but we are becoming one team. And you guys know how that is. We got to feel each other out and learn things about each other. And then we're actually going on this journey together, which has been pretty cool.
The reason why Mike says we have me, and to explain why I never get attachments or anything like that, but we do get entities that like to come to our home and pick fights, is mainly because of, and feel free to say if you heard this ability before, anybody, but we have classified it, at least that's been told to me, is called a shadow walker, hence the name for our paranormal team. My ability lies within my hands. And it's not in a sense of I can hear spirits or talk to them or anything like that. I can feel the energy of the dead, the EMF or electromagnetic energy that they produce in order to make noise, to be there, to scratch you, to push, to move tables, any of that energy that spirit would use to be in our plane, essentially, I can feel. But that's one of many parts of my ability. I can also take that energy away from them. I can strip them of the energy that they need to be here and basically turn them back into a blank mannequin, back to the realm of wherever spirits come from, and they start all over again with gaining that energy up in order to do something. Now, I've learned to differentiate good spirits from evil spirits by which hand charges. and charging is a sensation that I call it that tells me that an entity is nearby. The sensation feels like your hands go numb, that tingling sensation, almost like your hands are going to sleep. And it starts in the center of my palms and spreads out the closer I am to something or the stronger something is. So left hand tells me that it's a human spirit, a good spirit person. Right hand tells me that it's a dark entity, a demon, or something of a darker nature. And I really only ever take entity off the plane if they're dark nature. I never like taking a person off just because it's a person trying to be there, trying to communicate, trying to talk. Darker entities, those are the ones that I always have problems with, and hence why we say we pick fights, because I didn't know if we give them a chance to do anything before I rip them off the plane, which makes me a powerful weapon essentially in paranormal investigating, because I have no fear when it goes to an investigation, because anything that would cause problem to you in investigation, I can take away before they can do anything. We haven't really encountered anything extremely bad, like high-level demons, but low-level demons and dark entities and even ancients created, what did you call it, Mike? Hoodoos.
What were you saying?
No, never mind. You call them hoodoos.
Hoodoos, yes.
Yeah.
Hoodoo.
We consider those witch-created dark entities that witches might use to create to help conjure up and do their task or something like that. Those are a little more tough, but I have classified spirits that I've taken off the plane into smoke and sand. Smoke is the sensation that I feel, how it feels, the thickness behind it, like smoke. It's tangible, you can feel it, but it's easy to absorb. Sand, however, of course, feels coarse. You still run your fingers through it, but it's a little tougher to take. And those sand level entities cause me pain when I take them off the plane and stuff like that. Hence why I said in the beginning, I will do my best to protect us from anything going on, because I can feel if something is coming through one of your cameras. And I've already felt something with my left hand coming from Spooky Squad. So you have a person there. I'm not saying there's anything. I'm saying you have a person there. don't freak out. Don't freak out.
They were over at our house right now.
Better see some rent.
Yeah.
You have a person, a human spirit, somebody.
She did say that she had the attachment on the ring. That was
that's what I was gonna say. I think it's the ring. It's the male on the ring. It's a more of a spirit guide, almost assigned to the bloodline and the family as a protector.
Yeah, spirit guide.
So y'all are sensing Al?
Well,
yeah.
I feel
the whole
Dave,
time as soon as you guys logged in, like I've been hearing stuff in my left ear, and then my right ear's been ringing, and so as soon as you guys tapped in, I could kind of tell where you were at and what is around you, which is kind of cool because I can get a lay of the land kind of thing.
How about you ladies? Do you guys feel anything? Shelly or?
With the group, you mean? Okay, what I'm getting for Kelly, it definitely is a spirit guide. And I'm getting it's on your mother's side. I'm getting a grandmother. I'm seeing an elderly lady standing behind you. It's not associated with the ring, but she's also there too.
Okay. Interesting.
So we're getting more than one on your side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it makes sense with my family because I was raised, I'm Cherokee, so we were raised to have our ancestors and stuff around. So it's not unusual to be surrounded by family.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, the reason I bring up my ability, so when we talk about things later, it makes more sense when we say that we have nothing to worry about and stuff like that and how my ability works. But better question is, I've told this to countless psychics, countless paranormal investigators, and people in the paranormal, and they have never heard anything like this before.
I haven't heard of it, so this is really cool.
I have a similar, I experience similar things. They're usually called Claircities, which means that you feel things. This is a new ability that I've started picking up probably within the last 6 months, where I can feel spirit around me all the time, like either pressure on my head or tingling, or I can feel them touch me. I can actually feel them when they actually walk right into my aura. It's weird. I never had that before because I'm clairvoyant. I can see them too, but this is a new thing where I feel them all the time.
Yeah, we're in the awakening. So this year is the spiritual awakening year.
Mhm.
This year is going to be when most people that have gifts are going to level up. And those that don't have gifts are going to start being more spiritual and starting to feel things around them. This is the change of when science and spirituality hopefully will come together. And it's happening very quickly. So you should see your gifts change.
Yes.
Which leads me into a next topic, since not everyone here is psychic or even have abilities and such like that. And I get to get opinion from both sides. I know we all have gear, ranging from different things we might use, from our phones to actual digital recorder and stuff like that. Maybe you can explain a little bit what kind of gear you use. But a question I think I had for everyone in this sense is that, how is it you investigate using your senses or abilities versus using your equipment? And which ones do you like using more to help you figure out who's here and how you can help the entity or entities in a location?
Okay, well, I could speak. Sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Okay, I was going to say with my group, we're all mediums. The only equipment we bring in is a cell phone or a camera because I want them to use their abilities. And everyone has different abilities, whether they're clairvoyant, whether they see, clairaudient, whether they hear, claircidians, whether they feel. And we kind of go into a building as a group. So if people start picking up things, then we can usually tap into that. We can also elaborate on that too. So I don't want them to use a lot of equipment because it kind of takes away from them using their abilities. I know a lot of groups do, and that's fine. But my group, we use our abilities.
So our group, we mostly use equipment because we have a few psychic mediums and clairvoyants and things on the team, but not always. Everybody's always present, and we're a very large team, and we do a lot of events. We do a lot of events. We do public events where we do investigations to the public to raise money for historical societies and things like that.
Nice.
But if we're doing a residential, that's a totally different story, right? If we're doing a residential, we'll keep them out of our chat. Anybody that's working the case with us that has abilities, we keep them completely out of the chat, keep them out of the history. They know nothing going in. And we will usually have them walk the premises by themselves with us, the investigators that are using tools, waiting outside. We let them do their thing. They'll come back out and they'll tell us what they felt and where, and then we will go investigate with our equipment in those areas.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a good routine.
Yeah, when we do it, we don't know any of the history of the places either, whether it's residential or buildings. We usually go in cold, and then usually there's people that work in the building or family members if it's a residential. Then we meet with them afterwards and we tell them what we've picked up, and then they confirm for us.
Validation.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes some of the places we go, you can't avoid knowing the history. But yeah, I'm the same way. I tried not to know any of the history going in. Then I'll do an investigation. Then I'll look into the history and see what coincides.
Yeah.
Yeah, afterwards, for sure.
I think for us, we tend to, depending on where we're going and what we're doing, just like Mike said, getting, I think it's really hard for us to go into a place without knowing what the history behind the location is, specifically just based on how, we're pretty fresh at doing this ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And we have no medium, no clairvoyance on this team.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't utilize emotion going into it, but whenever we go to a location, if we feel something, we'll kind of use that to like if we hear something or feel something or see something, then we'll use that to kind of like gauge our line of questioning and like go into it and like utilize the tools that we have around that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But we do rely a lot more on the equipment side of things. We try to keep it as bare bones as possible. Audio recorder, camera equipment.
Mhm.
I think the closest device we have to an actual like paranormal tool is our spirit box
And a REM pod.
and a REM pod.
Yeah.
Which the REM pod just is like a motion detector.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, and I was going to say too, senses wise too, we typically, I feel like we've picked up a lot of smells, especially in places that we've been recently.
Mhm.
Cold spots, that would be like touch. And then whenever he talks about the feelings too, the last place we went was the Whispers Estate. And there was a particular hallway that's associated with a portal, and just kind of this general bad feeling of being in that hallway was something that we really kind of all picked up onto. So.
And I know I said earlier that I wasn't sensitive, but now that I'm thinking about it, what I'm going to say is that I have had a couple times where things were very, very active, where I started to feel a little nauseous. You know, but that's about the extent of things.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I've had similar things. I don't consider myself a psychic or a medium or anything like that, but I have had times where I've felt spirits touch me, or I get images of something in my head. And if I say something, like the person who's giving us a tour guide, they're like, oh yeah, that's associated with somebody. Like one place that we went to, I kept getting Henry VIII in my head for some reason. And I was just like, does Henry have something to do with something? And they go, oh yeah, that was the old postmaster that worked here. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I don't consider myself a medium or a psychic. I just think I'm open to communication.
Mhm.
I think that's a big part of it, is just going into it with, I mean, being the type of field that it is, being open to it
Mhm.
is probably the best thing. Like, I don't think we go into anything like immediately saying like, oh, if we feel something weird or we smell something weird, that's
That's just our
nothing.
minds.
Yeah.
But we also like to look at it as like, we try to bridge the gap between people who, I mean, me and Chris are fairly skeptical as far as like going into places. We've had some crazy stuff happen that has questioned some stuff, especially recently. But at the same time, we like to keep an open mind with like how we go about it, because, you know, if you go into it trying to not find anything, you're not going to find anything. If you go into it with an open mind and an open heart, you know, who knows what'll come through and like talk to you or try to communicate and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't know if you guys know, but everybody has some kind of ability.
Yes.
It's whether or not you've learned to tap into your higher self or not. So, I mean, there are people out there that say that they don't have any abilities, but every time they go somewhere, they can tell when something's wrong, or, hey, this is not a good situation. They call it women's intuition. You know, they've put names on it for years. But you can develop in our line of work that feel of the hair on the back of your neck's raising, cold. Hey, I got a cold spot. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you are able to be sensitive enough to feel what's around you. And that's what you guys are really doing. And I love the fact that you started off saying, well, you know, we don't have any psychics or nothing. But
But now we're saying, yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I love to feel that, because that means that just everybody is opening their mind up further than just being stuck in man's box. And, you know, hey, there is more out there. I've been there, you know, I'll attest to it. Everything wholly on it. There is something after this. This is just one of many. And then I'm finding that out too. Like, so this is not the first time I've been here. This is not the first time a lot of us have been here. It's repetitive cycles. We're all brought back. We have things that we need to do and purposes we need to, you know, why we're here. And every time I think they change upon the balance of things. So everything needs a balance, good and light. So like as life rolls on, there's more of us coming out now. because the light needs a little bit of help. The dark's taken over. So everything has to have a balance, and we get brought back because we help keep a balance. I don't want to get too far into that. How about you, Isaac?
Well, I mean, yeah, essentially the same thing when it comes to it. But our team, Shadow Walker Paranormal, is like Shelly's team. We're all psychics. We're all mediums. We all have abilities. My wife being a very powerful one. Mike said literally the most powerful he's met in a long time when it comes to her abilities, because she holds a lot of different ones. I know most people have heard clairvoyant, clairaudient, all the different clairs essentially. She technically holds amongst more things beyond that, getting messages all the time, speaking to spirits, and unable to go to grocery store sometimes because she can feel everyone's energy, and it's so intense for her. But she's learning to protect herself and stuff like that. Your Megan, also psychic, but she also has a very strong connection to my Megan. Almost like twins, because we call them the Megans, we call them the twins because it's funny because they can almost feel each other's energy and stuff like that.
They feel the same too. They feel the same.
One's upset, the other one is too.
One of them is in the room, but you can't tell which one it is.
But when it comes to equipment, when we use in the field, we really don't use much. We kind of count on our abilities to get us here, there, and I usually can find them by just feeling around. Because if I had to count my abilities scientifically, I guess I'm like a natural EMF detector. I can feel when entities are around. I can pinpoint where they are as I get closer and stuff like that. Not only can I feel the EMF, I can absorb it and stuff like that. So I guess that's almost a scientific way to describe my ability. But I can't hold equipment because I need both my hands in investigation. So that kind of null and voids me from handling anything. I know
that you get false positives too, Isaac. We both do.
Yeah.
So like if we go near a REM pod, we can control it. We can make it dance. We can make it light up.
That's what I was just going to ask you guys. Have you ever held a K2 meter and can set it off?
Well, I was going to say because I know I don't know, everyone here believes me. You believe what you want and stuff like that. And it's hard to people to believe. It's hard for me to prove this ability without me just, there's no physical way I can prove it. So far, the only way that we found that I actually can physically prove it is if when I'm doing a pull of an entity, if you put a K2 meter or an EMF detector near my hand as I'm pulling, it will send it to green or red depending on the intensity of the spirit.
That's what I was going to ask, because I've heard that, the human body does put out EMF, very, very slight, and if you could be able to control that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Essentially that's what he's doing. And he's come a long way with it too. And you can, if you're close enough to him when he does a ground, what we call an aerial pull, which he's pulling a lot greater of an area. So like in case we're in a battlefield and we're trying to help people cross, and there's something holding the guys on the battlefield that's malicious. He can literally pull from the battlefield and pull the bad off so that we can get to the ones that want to cross. And then we come up and then, the Megans help cross them over. And then, I'm calling in angels. So all they're doing is just guiding them into the light. And you can feel that. You can feel it. You can measure it. You can feel it. We have a lot of issues with equipment. I can't take pictures with a camera no more. Every time I take a picture, I'll get something in the picture. It's just, it's like they're photographic. They know that I can hear them, so they want to stand in front of me, and that I get orbs and all that. So it's kind of hard for me to disprove orbs from spirits and stuff like that because I can see things and everything, which is kind of weird. But we do use cameras in necrophonic.
Necrophonics in a ghost tube.
Like a ghost tube.
Yeah, ghost tube and necrophonics.
Videotape. We do a lot of videotaping or recording on cell phones and stuff like that. But we use a lot of our abilities, and we don't need to hey, we need to set this up to go here. We go places and kind of hey, this is going to be cool. You might want to record this. So, and then we can kind of hunt them out a little bit quicker than having to make arrangements to go to an insane asylum or something like that. I can take you to places in the woods that I can guarantee you, if you don't think you're psychic, you're going to feel something. It's just those kind of things that we have been hunting here lately. But there's going to be some residential stuff coming, something to do with some possessions, and
Which,
stuff like that.
what Mike was referring to, the ground, the pull, the area pull, is essentially I would put my hand to the earth, and it has to be earth. It has to be ground. I have to feel the earth essentially, and I touch. Yeah, become part of it. But I send a pulse out, like mentally. It's the best way to describe it. Like a pulse kind of energates the entire area, and as far as I can see, as they say, in your mind's eye, I can pull all that energy to me. The most areas that I've done so far is an entire farm that I don't know, acreage, probably like 10 acres, probably, you would say, Mike?
I think it was about 15.
Okay, say 15. I pulled entire buildings, entire houses, entire neighborhoods and stuff like that to get everything at once. And it's not like I'm taking every spirit in the entire area. No, it doesn't work like that. I whatever hand is to the ground is what entities are being pulled. So left, I'd be pulling everybody. Right, I'd be pulling all dark things. Both hands would be essentially everyone.
So
but
you don't want to do. You don't want to do that.
That's kind of like Native Americans would walk barefoot on purpose for the same reason, right?
Yeah. Funny enough, in Native American lore, we tried finding this ability, and they called it a spirit walker. Yeah. I feel Spooky Squad feels like they're left out.
Not our area of expertise.
Yeah.
But what new, like he was saying, possession cases, and I guess that's the ultimate test for my ability is if I can weaken a demon in someone, or if I can pull them out of a demon out of somebody altogether. We're yet to test to see how my ability works against something like that. But if it works the same way as entities outside of people, it should do the same as it be inside someone. But yet we haven't yet to come across a case like that. So we don't know yet, but definitely we'll let everybody know when it does happen. But
do you guys run into the same thing that we do sometimes, that we feel that it might not actually be, I don't even like saying the word, but it might not be something that dark, but if you were a jerk in life, you're a jerk in your afterlife.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can try to be tougher than they are because they know you can't see them.
Yeah, I call them schmeagles. I call them schmeagles because they remind me of the little troll thing off of the Lord of the Ring. A schmeagle.
Yep.
Yeah, so they remind me of a schmeagle, and what they are is they're so unhappy that they become something that they're not, and then they try to come off as something a lot bigger than they are, so they kind of flake away pretty quickly, and that happens.
We tend to see that a lot, because then we'll be pretty stern with them. We obviously don't do any provoking or anything like that. We're very professional in the way that we handle stuff, but we'll be stern and say, listen, we know who you are. We know that that's not, you're not that tough of a guy. Come on, let's chat. Let's do this.
You got to stand your ground. Yeah.
Stand your ground. Exactly.
Sure.
Spooky Squad, your mic is mute.
Yeah.
I can see the little symbol on your picture. I know I saw the internet go out and you guys disappeared for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a blip.
Yeah.
Like I said, this conversation is not going to go without technical difficulties. So.
Yeah.
And I would say that we have a lot of equipment. We use a lot of different equipment. Being that some of the guys on the team and some of the founders have been doing this for 50 years. They've accumulated a lot of stuff, and we probably have every piece of equipment that's out there between us. So we're doing an investigation coming up Saturday. We're going back to the Gold Coast Railroad Museum. It was an old naval base that got blown down during a hurricane, and it caught fire. And we had some really crazy stuff going on there last time we were there. We're going back. So we're going to go to a room where there's not going to be anybody in. And we're going to set up a laser grid, some full spectrum cams, We're going to put REM pods, cat balls, trigger objects, and we're going to leave a recorder running, a voice activated recorder, and then we're just going to leave the room. And we're going to go do our thing somewhere else, and then we'll grab the stuff and review it.
Yeah, we used to do stuff like that when I first started. But the more and more I got into it, the more I started using my abilities. And note, I didn't. This is not something that's like I've had my whole life either. I'm learning them. But I've passed away unfortunately, I passed away 3 times in the last 4 years. I'm having problems with stomach cancer and throat cancer. So my smack in the head was death. So I've been to the other side, and I've met some things that that you wouldn't be able to fathom, and you probably wouldn't believe me if I told you. But there is something there, and I would just want to say to all of you guys, I appreciate everything you do for bringing that out to the public. More people need to know that, hey, if you don't take care of stuff, you're gonna get stuck here, and then people like us are gonna come put a camera in your face to make sure you're there. We need to start teaching everybody to let go of regret and not hold on to everything that's going to hold us here, so that we can move on to our next cycle and not get stuck here like some of them. And that way, I hate to say it, but I don't want us having a job forever. You know what I mean? But that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, no, I think that's is awesome to hear. And I think that's what War Party does too, also by holding live investigations where we're going to do EVP recordings. We have, right there and show it to the people. We'll let them interact. We'll let them ask questions. We'll do a lot of these things. And not only is it raising money for the Historical Society, the main goal is to help people and help people that have paranormal problems, or that's how we get residential. By getting our name out there, meeting with people, they might be skeptical just to look us up on Instagram or something and send us a message and say something. But if they meet us in person and they say, oh, wow, these guys are really professional and they know what's up, I'm going to pull them to the side and say, hey, by the way, I got this going on in my house, blah, 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 and also bringing awareness to people that there's definitely there's an afterlife.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is us as investigators are always a main focus. And different teams have their different perspectives of why they do investigations and stuff like that. I've come to a conclusion. There is basically almost 3 kinds of teams of investigators that go on investigations. Those who call themselves ghost hunters, essentially, and they're only out to gain publicity for their investigations. The evidence they catch, they want to post it on YouTube or any other place like that. I'm not saying doing so is wrong. I'm just saying that is their only purpose. They go to investigations, they disrespect spirits, they call out, they do anything that could cause an attachment. And that's their whole purpose, is to get famous, to be the next Ghost Adventures, to be the next Ghost Hunters, to have that TV show or be popular on that level. And then there's second class of paranormal investigators, those who call themselves paranormal investigators and stuff like that. Those are seeking to know knowledge of the afterlife. They want to go into an investigation and respect the spirits that are there, because that's actual people you're speaking to. That are just passed away, and sometimes they don't know they're dead. We know in the paranormal community, we come across 2 kinds of entities: those who know they're dead and those who don't know, or residual and intelligence, as they say, when it comes to investigating. And then there's a third kind of team, which is, I would like to classify, not putting anyone under saying not so, but my team essentially is, our only purpose is to go to a location and make it less haunted, to help spirits cross over that need crossing over, and get rid of the ones that are causing pain and torment to those that are there. And that seems to be Shadow Walker Paranormal's main focus and purpose, is to basically make places less haunted, which is almost like putting a crosshair on our foreheads with other paranormal teams out there. Because after we go somewhere, you're not going to get a lot of evidence after we leave it. But believe me, there's some places you can't cleanse the entire world in a single day. So, but it seems to be our main mission. And Lorraine Warren said it best, that people have, when they get robbed, they have the police to call. When they're sick, they can go to the hospital. But people have no one to call when it comes to dealing with the paranormal, and that's what we're for. That's what investigators like us are for, to help people that are dealing with the paranormal and help them either cross over or at least make a compromise with spirits and stuff like that, and also prove the existence of the paranormal.
I agree.
That seems to be the case.
Yeah.
I'm not saying which team is which you. I'm calling you guys out. If you guys feel which one you are, which one you're not, it's up to you. But one question that I had, and it's kind of a little off topic, but I'll probably come back to this towards the end because I have a question that kind of resolves around what we just talked about. But I don't want to bring it out now. I kind of want to save it for the end. Does recreating historical sites or historical landmarks, like dressing up in historical attire, playing historical music, or that evolve to the situation, say on the battlefield, you're wearing a uniform or you're firing gun music or even playing the music for that time in any place and location, do you find doing stuff like that actually helps spirits come out and speak to you?
One of the teams that I was training before, they actually had somebody that would dress up in period clothing, especially when we were doing like EVPs, and she would just be going around in the background doing what would be normal for a person in that time period to be doing. And sometimes we'd get a spike, but a lot of times it would not really do much. They just kind of seemed confused because it wasn't always the most accurate period clothing.
Well, the only thing I could put in there, if my 2 cents, is that I do notice that trigger objects, like I wasn't there for this, but like just for instance, they were dealing with a spirit that he liked to drink, so they took a whiskey bottle, and Tim on our team and took a EMF reader, took it apart and put it inside where the LEDs were hanging inside, and wrapped it around the whiskey bottle and bring it there. And as soon as he sat down, he said, "You want to come have a drink?" And we noticed that like trigger objects like that will sometimes, if it's related to that spirit, will cause activity. So I would say yes, I feel that it does.
I definitely agree with that, especially like trigger objects or sounds. Even like if you can play a song that would have been popular or widely well known to whatever spirit you are trying to communicate with, it's just might bring out more of a response.
It's
And we,
one of those things
Familiar
that
to them.
comfortable.
yeah, just making it comfortable.
Yeah.
Especially if that that person, their energy, if they are unaware that they have passed, it could trigger like, oh, this was my everyday life. This is what I was used to, allowing them to feel more comfortable to show themselves to you.
Yeah. And I know before we got together, whenever I went on an investigation before with another friend, we had played Etta James for a spirit that had liked Etta James, and we got a lot more activity with that. And I think a lot of it is too, like you all said, the feeling comfortable, things that they knew before, and just trying to be as polite as possible, but still trying to learn as much about them as possible too.
Yeah. Like I said, it's like, I mean, they're people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's we're trying to communicate. I mean, sometimes something darker or more sinister may come through, but at the end of the day, our goal is to mostly like communicate with people that have already passed or that they don't know or stuff like that. So setting the tone, I think, is a huge deal, because if you go in, like you said, if you're like super arrogant and cocky, then you just like, they're not going to feel comfortable enough to, continue about their normal routine, or they're going to be completely turned off by the fact that, you're some stranger in their house, but, it doesn't matter because it's, another day. So.
One thing that we've realized that really helps us a lot in getting responses is if it's a place we've been to before or someplace that we're able to get EVPs off the internet from other teams, playing those over a speaker in that location almost always gets a response.
So they can hear their own voice. Yeah, that makes sense. Hear your own voice kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they'll sit there and be like, that's not me. And we'll just be like, we've tested it out before. We've taken EVPs that we knew were not from that location just to see if it would trigger something else. And usually we get a no. But
That's a cool
That's
idea.
a really good idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely borrow that one.
Yeah.
it's interesting the results you'll get.
Yeah.
It usually works.
We've done it a few times where we've played music. One specific location, it was a temple. And the acoustics in this place is amazing. And they used to bring in folk singers and that, and they would actually record in the building. And this one time we went in there, I actually got the lady's CD that recorded in there. I played it. And the spirits were like, they just came out in droves.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing. Like they were dancing and singing and everything. It was great.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I know Mike and myself, because we've gone to Croatoy National Forest a couple of times, and we find playing Native American-based music, especially to the Pacific tribes of the area, attract them in. And I know Mike has a call that you usually say to them is almost like a greeting, like a hello, and sometimes we hear it answered back. How's it go, Mike?
I know.
Yeah, there you go. Usually when he says that in the woods, a good yell, you can hear it come back from a good distance away sometimes.
Sorry, what did you say? I didn't get that.
I don't even know what it means. I was told by a spirit guide to say, I know.
Okay.
And we don't know exact tribe it's from.
I know it's
Sounds very
very
original.
Yeah, it's very, very old. And the
Yeah.
spirit guide it comes from, he's very, he's one of the ones that I haven't actually got to see or meet yet. He's the secret one. You know what I mean? Like I know he's there, but he doesn't want to communicate yet. I'm not at that level of communicating with him yet.
And
But
that would be super interesting to find out what that means.
Yeah, I haven't run across it yet though. So one of our biggest problems with some of our oldest religions, there's no written
documentation
of this. So where you're at, I'm getting Seminole.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I'm getting a very
I'm in South Florida, so absolutely.
Okay, so you're right there in that. Yeah. So I mean, and see, I pick up on natives in the area a lot. They're a lot more inquisitive with me than.
I mean, we have so many mounds, burial mounds that are from 500 BC and so much stuff around that, and they're hidden. They don't really let you know. They're everywhere.
They're the ones that when science actually starts to look into them, they're going to realize that we're like on our third go around on this earth. Like this is not our first time. There are civilizations that we have not found that are going to blow science out of the water because they're a lot older than they even know. We are a lot older than we even know. And I keep getting this star child thing from Aborigines and stuff. I don't want to go any further with that because that's a rabbit hole. Let's not go down the rabbit hole.
Well, funny enough, I guess what helps out investigations with historical essence and stuff like that is that me being Mexican makes me half indigenous to the areas of Aztec and stuff like that. But I come to find out, when I'm 32 years old, 'cause I'm 34 now, my mother tells me, "Oh, you're not 100% Mexican." And I go, "What are you talking about?" She says, "You're about 90%. I'm like, "Then what's the other 10? She goes, "Oh, Native American." I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" She says, "Your great-grandfather, her grandfather was Native American, 100%. And my great-grandmother was Spanish," which technically all Mexicans are half Spanish to begin with. But yeah. And I found out that it's the Chitao tribe that my great-grandfather was descended from. And
that's very funny because earlier when you were telling me about your abilities with your hands and grounding to the earth, and the first thing I said was Native American with the no shoes.
Yeah.
I almost asked you your nationality, but I figured we'd wait and see.
Oh yeah. I mean, Mike's been on me about that for the last couple of weeks or so. So it's funny that you bring that up because he was automatically I've been telling him that for the last week or so.
You got to ground yourself out.
But yeah. And I find when we go to places that have Native American entities, they seem to have a liking towards me. Or at least they recognize me essentially as one of their own. Not just because of my skin tone or anything like that, but I guess they sense the native blood in me and stuff like that. I guess one of the other things continue to talk about essentially like that, go into my notes here. Paranormal experiences. Now I know we all got our top stories and stuff like that, but one of the things I guess I want to talk about in a sense like that is some of your top paranormal experiences, like something that you come across that just get the crap out of you, or literally go, oh, this is real. It broke your reality and something like that.
Well, considering we're fairly new at this as a group, we've had a couple of experiences that range from, oh, that's interesting, to, like you just said, oh, that's a little different. Specifically, our first investigation was, being from the Louisville area, if you don't go to Waverly Hills, what are you even doing? Which we're going back in November for just a private overnight. So we're looking forward to that. But we went and we had experiences with, we had not only stuff that we caught on audio, but also disembodied voices and disembodied footsteps. Like me and Chris were on the 4th floor on the west wing of the building. And as we were walking, just clear as day, he looked and turned to me. He's just like, do you hear like footsteps behind us? I'm like, yeah. And we turn around, there's nobody there. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then we were all together in the room on the 4th floor, which is, I'm not sure how many of you all are familiar with the entities at Waverly, but there was a homeless man and his dog who was unfortunately pushed down the elevator shaft by some thugs who broke into the building one night. And we were in the room where he used to stay behind the elevator shaft, and all of us heard like a dog panting. And we're in the middle of nowhere in a abandoned tuberculosis hospital 4 stories up, and we in the room with us just hear like a panting dog. And we caught that on audio as well, but we just heard it clear as day. And then most recently, our investigation at the Whispers Estate in southern Indiana, which highly recommend. That was an awesome investigation. It was a great place to do it too, because it's such an old building and it has a lot of history. If you don't know about it, look it up. It's great. But we had, like we said earlier, the really weird feeling on the hallway in the 2nd floor. We got a lot of REM pod activity. We were actually sitting downstairs in the dining room, just eating a quick snack and stuff before we started investigating for the night. And we had set all of our equipment up beforehand. And as we're sitting there eating, we just go, do you guys hear that? And we're like, holy crap, that's the REM pod going on. And we go up the stairs, and we would get about a quarter of the way up, and it would stop. Then we would stop, and it would start again. And then we got all the way up to, by the time we got to the top of the stairs, it had done this numerous times, and it had stopped when we got to the top. And we asked, hey, if that was you, can you do that again? And not 3 or 4 seconds later, it just goes ballistic. Like it's going crazy. And so then we start talking to it, and in that same like hallway area, there's a master bedroom at the end of it. And we were all sitting there asking questions. We had a laser grid set up. The REM pod was doing intermittent things throughout the night. We were trying to communicate. And as we're sitting there, I think it was about 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, something like that. We just hear in the room with us. And that was, and it at first we all go, did you guys hear that?
Did anybody knock?
Yeah, did anybody knock? And then we saw like the laser grid break, and we're at no more than a second after the knocking. And not only did we hear it, but we got it on camera, we got it on voice recorder, and it's like crazy loud. And throughout the whole night, we had not heard anything like it, because it was just like somebody was knocking on wood.
Right beside us.
Yeah, directly next to us.
Yeah.
So that one shook us a little bit, because being there we were there, 7 hours?
7 or 8, right?
7 or 8 hours, and didn't hear anything similar to that. So
yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah. And I think I'll do mine short too. Whenever we went to Ross Opera House down in Cynthiana, Kentucky, it's an old historical opera house, but it's a functioning movie theater now. So they were all down at the bottom towards the screen, setting up equipment and things down there, because we were going to set a video camera up. And then I was up at our little equipment table that was up by the snack bar and kind of out towards the exit. And there's a staircase that goes up to the second floor of seating. I heard the loudest footsteps of my life start coming down the stairs. And it was like a Twilight Zone moment, because I've always believed in the paranormal, but if I didn't before then, I definitely would after then. And it was one of those things where, you know, you get this thing in your head that you're like, oh, if it happens, I'm going to be like, so with it, I'm going to be like, guys, come up here. Like, let's go record. I completely froze, couldn't talk. I'm just like, guys. And then finally it stopped and I sat there for a minute and I turned around and I was like, oh my God. So that was my best and freakiest thing that has happened to me yet. So
I haven't really had too many freaky things happen, but I think the coolest thing that's ever happened to me was back when I was living in Japan. Me and one of my neighbors, she was getting interested in the paranormal. So at 3:00 in the morning one night, we couldn't sleep. So we decided to go to this park, and I had our Ovilus with me. And we're just walking around in the dark, and all of a sudden, the Ovilus starts saying Jackie, which is a family name for my dad. My dad passed away shortly after we had moved to Japan. And so I was sitting there, I was talking with the Ovilus, and it kept saying daughter and happy. So I FaceTimed my sister back in the States, and the two of us were able to actually have a conversation with my dad through the Ovilus. And
That's awesome.
It was
awesome.
amazing. Completely bawling the whole time, but it was really cool to have him visit and be able to share the moment with her clear on the other side of the world, because she had been struggling with it. But then I also have Al, who likes to play pranks and stuff on me. Like one time we were at Ferry Plantation in Virginia Beach, and I was there with the team that I was training, but I was kind of getting in the way of the investigation because sometimes he likes to hog the equipment. And so I was off in another part of the house again with the Ovilus, and I had headphones in so that way it wouldn't interfere with their stuff. And all of a sudden he starts going, run, danger. And I look up, and coming through a doorway was this black mass. Like, I forgot your name. I completely freaked. And it's the only time I've ever screamed on a investigation. It ended up being one of the team members. She had thrown a blanket over her. She just wanted to find a place to nap.
oh my gosh.
I would have freaked if Al had not been sitting there going, run, danger.
Yeah.
One of y'all do that to me, I'm gonna just lose it.
Yeah.
That became a rule now when I train.
Yeah.
No black blankets, especially not thrown over you.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a story. We did an investigation. It's a little town. It's called Lucan, and I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Donnellys. The Donnellys were an Irish family that lived in Lucan, and how could I say it? Basically, the townspeople didn't like them, okay, because they were different, but that's okay. But anyways, what it led to is basically the townspeople got it in their head that they didn't like the Donnellys. So instead of them actually going to the police or whatever, they decided to take the law into their own hands, and they burnt their house down with the Donnellys in the house. So they have this little museum, which is a replica of the house that we went to. When we went in there, I was picking up on a spirit of a little boy, and I could see him. He was standing in the corner, and he had a sister too. And they had on the shelf all these really old-fashioned dinky toys, but even older than that, like little trucks and stuff like that, made out of, I guess, metal. And I asked one of the ladies, I said, this little boy, he wants to play with me, spirit. I said, can we take one of them down? So she took it off the shelf, and I couldn't kneel down because I was getting a knee operation shortly. But anyways, one of the other girls, she got on the floor, and the little boy spirit was right beside her. And we actually have video of him actually moving the little truck as she's encouraging him, right? It's like, holy crap, like this is amazing, right? To get it on video. But it was really amazing. Like he was so excited and he was using so much energy for him to be able to move this physical object. It was amazing to see. It was like, oh my God, this is fabulous. It was really, really cool. Yeah, it was really cool. And then we have another experience with the Aboriginals, but we went to this house. It was a residential house. This family was having a lot of issues, and I went with my group. And I think I wrote this on one of the questions. One of the previous owners actually committed suicide in the house. So the energy was very, very heavy. And there was a very negative spirit attached to the house. But when we went outside, I could actually see the Aboriginals. They had set up their teepees and everything else. They were, there was a fire going. There was all kinds of Aboriginals on the land, right? So we're able eventually to get rid of this negative entity. But I said to the owner, because I didn't know ahead of time, like I said, we go in cold. I said, this house should not have been built here. This is built on sacred land. You're always going to have problems because the house shouldn't have been built here. And to this day, they're still having issues.
Yeah, they will. They will. Yeah. They'll continue having issues until they respect the land.
Yeah.
That's the other issue that we're getting into. You know, we're becoming a concrete society. You know, more and more houses are encroaching. We're not only taking wildlife, you know, we're taking these sacred burial lands and you know, in our area, a lot of graveyards are being desecrated. Yes. Under banks, underneath the Bojangles, you know, things of that nature, where they're just building on top of these things, and then they wonder why they get so much activity.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where we want to try to help and stuff. I would say my scariest moment, I've been privy to 4 exorcisms on the previous team I was on. And unfortunately, my wife being one of the exorcisms, it was a life-changing, life-altering event that if anybody were to experience that firsthand, you know, my wife is 4'8", 9-ish, little bitty thing, weighs about 100 pounds. I saw her pick up 3 grown men and toss them like rag dolls. You know, the eyes turned white. The voice that was coming out was not hers. You know, more than once we saw black puke come out of her that wasn't hers. That's not what she ate. That's not, it didn't even, you know, it was, I would call it very close to ectoplasm, about as close as you could probably get from it. And what it was doing is we were making what was in her, you know, it was making it sick. So it was making her sick. But you know, that would be the most, you know, the most evil thing I've come across were the 4 demons in those 4 situations. And the hold that they had on the people, and then the feel of when that goes away. When you feel the angelic power, that angelic light, and that's the only way I can describe it, because everybody calls them angels. They're bigger than angels. They're, like you said, they're it's, you know what I mean? They're like, they're, you can't describe them. But when you feel that, that was definitely when I knew that I was doing what I was meant to do while I'm here. That's when I received my message. This is you. This is why you're here, is to help people like this. This is why you've been brought back. Kind of like, hey, that's why we wouldn't let you go, kind of thing. Like, you know, it's not your time. You got to do this before you leave.
Mike Dill.
Oh boy, how do I top that? I should have went first.
Sorry.
I would say, man, there's so many. We like I said, we investigate so often that we see so many things that I'm pretty numb to now. So I would say the biggest one that sticks in my brain was probably one of the first real investigations I did with my buddy Joe, and it just kind of played out like it wasn't really planned. Like we went to the old jail in St. Augustine, and we just paid to kind of go in there. They saw that we knew what we were doing and we were capturing EVPs and stuff, and they said, "You guys just stay." and we stayed and investigated, and we had the jail to ourselves. So in the warden's bedroom, we were getting a lot of activity, and we got a crystal clear EVP that said, check the board. So I'm like, check the board? What does that mean? So one of the historians that worked there happened to walk up, and I said, hey, if I said to you, check the board, what would that mean? So she said, well, in the guard tower, there's a board of everybody that's been hung or hanged in this jail. So we went to the board. It kind of led us to the board. And when we went to the board, we started reading off names, and we said, hey, could you set off one of the devices when we get to your name? And we started reading down names until we got to Tom White. And we had a couple of devices go bananas. So when I went downstairs, talked to the historian, I said, who's Tom White? And they said that, yeah, he's somebody that we get a lot of, and he's not happy. And I guess he was tried for murder and hanged for being associated with the crime where he wasn't the person that did it. But so he said that, and that was just wild how it gets a little deeper than that, but I don't want to take up too much time. But just the series of events that led us through to show us his name was just, it was wild. And then one more quick one was Disembodied Voices. That always is amazing. When you can hear a voice of a human being that you heard and you can capture on video, and there's no explanation for that. I've got a couple, but the clearest one was at the Southern Bell Museum. We were in there, and I couldn't see so well. I had my night vision camera, and I was walking, and my buddy Joe had a couple static cams set up, and I was walking just past the threshold of the door into another part of the building. And as soon as I cross that threshold, you hear, hey, where are you going? And I said, and I turned around, I said, Joe. He goes, no, that wasn't me. And we both got goosebumps, got, pretty spooked. But when we played back the footage, sure enough, on the camera, it's clear as day, and you can see both of our reactions, and that was pretty cool.
Those are both awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, I know you have to deal with possessions, but I guarantee you're probably going to in the future. Mike and me. But one of the, I guess, something that broke reality for me that really, because I've been dealing with the paranormal since I was a kid. My infamous ranch, if you've listened to the podcast, you hear me talk about it frequently, that everything and anything paranormal has happened, along with possibly seeing a cryptoid or hearing one, and also seeing aliens in the sky. But the thing that broke my reality for me hadn't anything to do with paranormal ghost-wise. I saw a gnome outside my house. A little tiny gnome, exactly how they describe it. And believe me, when I looked at it, I was trying to think of anything that it is besides what I'm looking at. And I'm like, I can remember seeing it made a shadow, like it was all black because it was dark at the time, peek around my bush, look at me with a little pointy hat. And then I literally ran over there with a flashlight on my phone to see if it's there. And of course it's gone. But yeah, that really broke reality for me, you can say, on that level. Yeah.
Do you mind it?
A little trippy.
Yeah. You say, Mike?
I was going to say, do you mind if I ask a question to everybody?
Yeah.
I was going to say, guys, most investigators that I've met had something break their reality, as you say it. When they were a child or somewhere along the way that kind of brought them more into this. Is that the case with everybody here?
Mhm.
I was just always raised. I don't even remember what my first experience was. It was just always from very young age. If you hear or see something, we were taught to acknowledge it and say hello. Because that was probably a family member coming to check on you. And so the paranormal was normal for me. It wasn't until I got to high school, because when I was in high school, Ghost Hunters, all that hadn't come out yet. That's when I started realizing what I experience and what me and my family do is not the norm for my peers. So after high school, that's when I started getting into paranormal investigating. I was actually fortunate enough to be able to be a part of a team that works with the Rhine Research Center in Durham, North Carolina. So they were able to teach me how to scientifically do things to not contaminate your own evidence and things of that nature. And so that's how I got into actual investigating, but I've always grown up around the paranormal.
I grew up with activity in my household, my parents' house, as well as my grandparents. They are directly beside each other on the same plot of land, and grew up with similar activity in both households. Seeing stuff, hearing stuff walk around at night, and always being a curious child, I would get up to look to see if it was my sister or one of my parents, and never would see who I thought it was. Would see shadows like dart across the hall, or shadows in the corner of my room, and I would blink and they would be gone. And I was raised in a household to where no adult around me believed in the paranormal. So I was always taught that it's your imagination. You're a child. You have a crazy imagination. You must have been just seeing things. But the older I got, I was still seeing these things, and I knew what I was seeing. I knew what I was hearing. I would know if like things had been moved. So I started to grow an interest in the paranormal, and not really wanting answers for myself, just wanting or to prove anyone wrong, just to gain my knowledge of validation, I guess, that what I was seeing was real, even though figures around me, like parental figures, was telling me it's just your imagination. I just wanted to grow that knowledge base for myself.
Yeah. And I think mine's a little different because I don't remember any like direct like seeing anything, hearing anything whenever I was a child. But mine was more like old wives' tales based, that there's other forces at play with things. So if you've ever heard like drop a dish towel, you're going to have company, your hand itches, money's coming, things like that. And just seeing those as a child, that sometimes those things would occur. I'm like, maybe there's other things kind of at play here. And then my mom was always really into the paranormal and believing things and thinking that there was also more out there than to what we normally see. So that's initially kind of what got me started on it. And then I've just continued to, I want to know what all is out there. And then kind of like what you all had said earlier, maybe later on down the road, if we do have any sort of ability or something like that, figure out how to help things resolve or how to help things cross over. So I think that's something we really kind of want to look into once we kind of get more of a grasp on things.
I just want to say, I think it's interesting that all of y'all believe in helping spirits cross over, whereas I was always raised to believe that's not your role. They're just here visiting. And one of the things that I do is I help people learn how to live with spirits, kind of work as a mediator almost, trying to help the spirit be more comfortable in the environment, but also have the family be more comfortable in the environment as well, because it's their home as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, what it is they, so they have free will, universal law of free will, right? So some of them don't want to go, some of them are comfortable where they're at, and those are the ones that we need to respect and yes, teach people to coincide with them. But we need to be very careful on, just please be careful not to teach people to coincide with something they shouldn't be coinciding with, because they will mislead you.
Right.
They will make you think that there's something they're not. And, we don't want to let them grow a relationship with anything like that.
Right.
Now, if they're open to it, then, that's their free will, right? So I would say that, that's their decision. But I see where you're coming from. Just as long as, like, if you knew that it was a good thing,
Right.
you know what I mean? If you didn't have
I'm not. yeah, I'm not going to sit there and be like, no, you got to put up with this dark entity. I'm trying to find out why that spirit is so upset. I truly haven't come across anything that was like demonic yet in the 15 years that I've been an actual investigator. So I haven't come across that yet, but most of the spirits that I found, they're just upset because they feel like somebody else is taking over their environment and changing everything that they want to say and what's going on.
Yeah.
What about you, War Party Mike?
Yeah, no. I've I guess to answer my own question that I first started off with is, yeah, I saw some stuff when I was younger that really kind of freaked me out, and I kind of blocked it out and just passed it off as nothing. You know, it was a fictitious thing or whatever. But I was always like super interested in all paranormal stuff, cryptics, spirits, everything, aliens. I definitely believe that there's something there, and in multiple aspects of things that we don't know about. I think some of it is BS, but I do think that there is something going on that we need to get to the bottom of or bring light upon it, so other people and introduce it into as real science. You know, they kind of brush it off like it's not real science. But what's funny is, you know, my name is, you know, on all my things is Florida Paranormal Researcher. I do a lot of research. I dig in, and I've gone through a lot of files. And this whole Freedom of Information Act was awesome, because you can go right online and start reading some CIA documents about EVPs and manipulating things of your mind and telekinesis and communicating and all these things that have been proven by the CIA in confidential, declassified documents that are right there for you to read. So, you know, it's the people that want to find it are going to find it, but they're not going to put it out there. But like you said earlier, you know, we're in a time of awakening, you know, and there is a lot of people and there's a lot of stuff that's going on that people, their everyday person, that starting to like say, you know, something's going on. I feel something like, you know, and with all this stuff with them declassifying a lot of the aerial phenomenons like that. I think they're kind of just waiting for the right time to the public can deal with it. Like right now, like, you know, they got you know, like I'm starting to go down a rabbit hole, but you know, I'm going to stop myself there because I can keep going and talking, but yeah, no, for sure. And the comment on what she was talking about, what you were talking about, Mike, is, yeah, I feel there's multiple different kinds of stuff going on. And it's hard to differentiate between what is a person, what is a spirit, what is energy. And, you know, for a person like myself, it's hard to figure, you know, to tell. But yeah, there's definitely stuff that's not good and doesn't need to be here. And there's some people I feel that are stuck here or here for a reason because they have unfinished business. Or they're really attached to their home or really attached to something and they don't want to leave. And then I feel like there is people that are stuck here that need help, you know, that don't know how. They don't know how to cross over. So I feel like there's a mixture of a little bit of everything that we just talked about.
Oh, yeah.
And Shelly, have you always been a medium? Has that always been like since birth you've talked to spirits and that's why you got into investigations?
I'm sorry. You talking to me?
Yeah, I was saying that. I'm sorry, I was too far away from the mic. I was saying, have you always been a medium, and is that why you got into investigations?
My very first experience, I was 8 years old, and my grandfather had just passed away. And 3 days after his funeral, I got woken up in the middle of the night to him standing at the end of my bed, all dressed in white, big smile on his face, didn't say nothing. I just remember being terrified, hiding under the covers because my background, I'm Irish on both sides, and it's the ability runs on my mother's side of the family, but nobody talked about it because I was raised a Catholic. That was kind of taboo, right? So I didn't really know what was going on. So that really frightened me for the longest time. But then when I became a teenager, being around other people, we started talking, you know, we had similar interests, started getting into it more. And then I was taught by 3 great teachers and basically just escalated from there.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
Mike's
you're-
background when it comes to the paranormal, but Mike, why don't you tell everyone why you became an investigator? I think you kind of did in the beginning when you talked about that you find your purpose after you died.
Well, I mean, before I'd even, got my smack in the back of the head, I was always the kid in catechism and Catholic school. That was you're that's not true. Or, hey, you're contradicting yourself. I was the one that I got hit a lot in Catholic school for some reason. You know what I mean? I always knew that there was more than just what they were telling me. And it was never just enough. After my smack in the head and everything became clear, I realized that a lot of the turmoil in my life was me actually ignoring what I was capable of, ignoring my gifts, ignoring my path. It caused for a hard life for me, but, ever since the awakening, I don't care about bills anymore. I care about money. I'm way out of touch of duality right now, which is amazing. It's nice to be able to say I don't have to worry about those things. I am going through some health issues that helps, pay some bills and stuff like that because I finally got disability and stuff. But,
I think
it's one of those things where I'm actually realizing that we are so much of a materialistic society. And once we realize that and realize that we need to get back in touch with the spirit side, people like us are not going to be uncommon. People that want to know about the paranormal and stuff. Back in my day, you didn't talk about it. You would get hit for it. It was a bad thing. You were a devil worshiper. You were, back in my day, it was a bad stigma. You didn't mess with that kind of stuff because if you didn't go to church, fire, hell, and brimstone. But the older I get, the more I realize that was man's way of trying to keep us in line, to set us a set of boundaries and rules. And that our brains are so much better than that. And even scientifically speaking, we only use a percentage of our brain, and it's a very small percentage. I'm trying to open up other connections and stuff. I always knew, but me dying was the smack in the back of the head that said, this is real. Like, get your life together. You know what I mean?
Mike, do you mind if I add something there real quick?
Yes, sir.
Like you said, like once you kind of had that awakening, small material things were not of an interest because you understand there's more coming. There's more than just this. And I think that's what a lot of society is afraid of is people learning that and not, consuming and where they could, people can make the money and do this by making the society focus on material things and not get in touch with their spirituality and that kind of thing.
But see, that's also why I'm saying that I'm being told and I get the feeling like we're losing the battle. We're losing the battle because we're becoming more and more of the society that we're becoming. Every time that's happened in the past, for those that are in connect with, being able to know the times and the dimensions and stuff, what they'll do? They'll just reset the clock again and we'll have to try again. It'll be the next coming, you know what I mean? Which the Bible said was the rapture. Those things are said the way they were because you got to remember too, that back then they didn't have the mental knowledge we do now.
No,
so if you were to take one of us and go put us in that time period back then with our knowledge now, then what do you think the Bible would say? And that's what I'm really like, I'm not saying it's wrong. I don't think any religion's wrong. Spirituality is a good thing. And if you need that box to get you to where you need to be spiritually, then yes, it is a good thing. That's always why I call upon more than one religion. But I think I'm going down a rabbit hole again.
Got to rein you in.
It's an easy
Yeah.
field to do that in.
Yeah.
I felt you, Isaac. I felt. Come on, Mike.
Yeah.
Slow it down.
But yeah, that is my hope when it comes to us as paranormal investigators and the paranormal together in its sense is that I have a hope that science and scientific study, it takes paranormal seriously in a realm and an idea that it can be studied, tested, and even viewed. Hell no, we know probably technology can be created to actually view the paranormal through a camera lens or anything like that, make us more connected to the other side. And I think one of the reasons that most scientists don't even particularly trying to study the paranormal is because it can't be measured in a controlled environment, and which we try as paranormal investigators to explain to scientists is that you can't control an environment that is uncontrollable in that sense that it's completely random. You're not going to get the same spirit every single time you go to a location. Sometimes they'll be there, sometimes they won't. Sometimes you'll have a lot of activity, sometimes you won't have any activity. It all depends on the situation and the environment of the location. But I believe more technology that we are creating and using to measure the paranormal, like EMF detectors, different sorts of cameras, the full spectrum cameras, the SLS, and different things like that, that prove the existence of the paranormal when it comes to that, can be used technology-wise to prove, like I said, the existence of the paranormal. And that's my hope for the future, is that the paranormal gets taken seriously on the scientific level when it comes to that. And that would be a future thing. But one thing I forgot to say, because we went on a tangent, like 3 or 4 of them, and I'm trying to get back to this main point. Is that, yeah, one of my most profound paranormal experiences, like I said, the gnome was the one that broke reality. Like, oh crap, there's different things out there. But was recently, and that's actually one of the locations that we're headed to again. But a first time we went to a location in the Croatoan Forest off a Pacific road. We found a road that wasn't connected to the main one. It was hidden in the woods. It might have been used for hunting. It kind of was just a dirt road, but it had other, Mike disagrees, but it had old buildings and old wood near it. Like maybe it was possibly built back in the early 1800s and stuff like that. But I digress from that. That's a whole different thing. But what the main thing is that at the end of every night and every investigation that we do, I do a pull from the ground. So instead of taking entities from this point, that point, here and there, I take the entire area and we do a prayer over the location to help prevent them from coming back. But the last pull I did at this location, when I pulled everything, and it was minor intensity, but I don't know how far I reached out. Because I always get down on one knee and have my hand to the ground. And then when I basically came out and I looked up, I saw in the tree line, and in North Carolina, where we live, the trees are very tall, about 3 stories tall at the tallest ones. And I did, and Mike did, a orange-red glow of light. And I kind of chalk it up to either a lantern or a torch, kind of how the light was reflecting on the tree lines. The thing is, though, the light was up near the top of the tree lines. It wasn't at ground level like someone carrying a lantern or a torch in the woods. This was way up in the tree lines, maybe a foot underneath the top of the tree. And it was moving in a direction away from us. And me and Mike got closer, like, what is that? We kept running towards it. And we ended up getting back onto the road that we parked the cars at, and we find that it's gone. And we couldn't figure out why. And Mike and Megan, my wife Megan, chalked it up to it could have been an elemental, a spirit of the woods, that I might have a native spirit of the woods, like a natural elemental or something like that I might have gained the attention of by doing the major pull, and hence why he showed up and like, oh, you want to see my light? You want to see me coming through? I notice you, something like that. I don't know, but yeah, that was the most like. And amongst many that we've experienced so far, profound paranormal experience that I've ever seen.
Did it almost look like I'm not saying this is what it was, but did it resemble like a Chinese lantern, like where they float and you could see like a fiery orange-ish?
No, it kind of, we just saw the light of it. Like if you can imagine seeing the reflection of light moving. Like we didn't see the source. We just saw the light it was giving off. It was a color like red orange. It made us think like a lantern or flame like a torch, because
like a torch, like an old school torch, like where they wrap the rag around the stick. That orange glow going through the trees,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Now,
That was
a little bit of backup for you, Isaac. So the area we're talking about is called Patsy's Pond. One of the few locations of a freshwater source on the East Coast where we're at, because of all our rivers are brackish. They're not freshwater, so you can't drink the water out of them. So this is one of the few freshwater sources in our area that has been on maps since 1600. So like the oldest I've tracked this back is the 1600s. So I'm feeling like, this was Indian before it was anything else. And then after the Indians, of course, we needed fresh water when we were settling this area. So, I mean, that would be a mecca of where everybody would need to be around, or at least be able to get access to for water.
Yeah, which we're going back out there again tomorrow. So we get it's tomorrow. And you got to figure that out. But I guess
Can we go right now? I can go right now.
It's almost 11 o'clock.
Oh.
It's funny enough. I know you guys at Spooky Squad and probably others as well, but I have never done an overnight investigation. Yet anyway, the latest I think we've ever been to location is probably midnight some places, but I would like to be in a location when it hits the all witching hour, but get to that point.
We get time warps too.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else experiences that, but like you'll be in a location and it'll feel like you've been there for 30 minutes and you look at your watch and you've been there for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I call it a time shift or a time warp.
Sounds like time slows down.
Yes, exactly.
When we were in Japan, I experienced that. We were actually in Aokigahara Forest, Suicide Forest.
Yep.
And the path that we went down, it took us 2 hours to get to this location. 2 of my husband's Marines decided they wanted to spend the night in the woods for a second night. Since I was sick, I had to leave before sundown because I couldn't stand being in 11-degree temperatures again. So me and my husband walked back to the car. It took us 15 minutes to get to the car from where we left him in the woods. That took us 2 hours to get there. And we couldn't figure out how that happened.
Yep.
That was at our location. Yeah.
Yeah, this location that we're at is doing that. Like it takes forever to get in. And then if you like when we started following that light, we ended up on the road in like 10 minutes. It took us almost 3 hours to get back there. It took the whole investigation to get back there. And then chasing this light thing that we were chasing took us like 10 minutes to get back to the road, which was like.
I kind of wonder if somebody was in both of our cases was just like, okay, you need to get out of here now.
Yeah, like pushing you.
Yeah.
Or leading you.
Yeah.
Well, we don't get, I hate to say it, but after my whole death experience and stuff, I don't get scared no more. I honestly, like I've gone into haunted houses and I know that they're standing there before they know that I'm there. You know what I mean? So I can feel that they're there now. So I don't get jump scared no more, which is kind of, oh man. And I used to enjoy that, and it's Halloween, and like I don't fear things like that anymore.
I don't know why, but I'm the same way. I don't get startled. Like once in a while, if something really intense happens, obviously I'll get like goosebumps or something. But I don't get like that like startled.
Terrified. Like I don't get panicky, terrified, or like get frozen in fear anymore. Like it's like, okay, I know you're there. What do you want? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, the same. But the most thing that scared me the most when we were out in those woods was a branch that tickled my arm because I thought it was a spider web nest.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of spiders.
No. There was a big web with like a big spider, and I saw it previously, and we were walking, and this little branch tickled my arm. I was like, okay, no, it's just a branch. All right, I'm good. And my wife thought, did something grab you? I'm like, no, it's a branch. I thought it was. She was laughing at me, but I guess one of my final questions in for everybody, because going almost 2 hours here, which I know we could talk about the paranormal forever, and that's the common thing. But one of the main things, now I talked about in the beginning about a couple of different paranormal teams when it comes to researching, investigating the paranormal. But one thing that I guess as investigators, what is something we can do to bring back the ethics of paranormal research and investigating, right? To bring it back to essentially what it was originally created for, to help spirits cross over. And I know that question, it has variations of what you can mean to it, but essentially, what can we do to bring the ethics back to paranormal research?
Well, that's one of the things that I actually do with my blog is I talk about ethical ghost hunting and try and explain to people the things that I learned while being with the group that was with the Rhine Research Center about how you can make your investigations more scientific and help not contaminate your own evidence, but also get stronger evidence to show to skeptics when you do experience something. Just having different equipment to help back up whatever you're experiencing, feeling, seeing, things of that nature. And I also go through and I train teams and individuals so that way we don't have a bunch of mini Zach Baggins going out and messing up stuff where we can go. I'm sorry.
Poking at stuff.
I don't believe in provocation at all. And it pisses me off when I see people doing that. So that's why I train teams, and that's why I got into the paranormal blogging, was because I wanted to teach people how to do this better.
So knowledge.
Yeah, to piggyback off of her a little bit, I definitely think it's communication between groups and education of
stuff like this.
the masses. Like this exactly is great, just sharing knowledge, sharing experiences, and then that helps all parties involved, educate the masses more on what this is, because, then they have more to go on than just Zach Baggins on the TV.
Right.
And they understand more about what is, possibly going on and how to interact. And, if they would also like to investigate, this is, here are good ways to do it, that you're not just, running in and
Shoving a camera in somebody's face.
yeah.
Just a respectful way of trying to build those connections and have a form of contact with a spirit, just being respectful in that process and teaching the public how to do that correctly if they choose to.
Just open, trustful, or truthful, and in educational discourse. Like the scientific community interacts the same exact way. And as far as I'm concerned, we're no different than the scientific community.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to bridge that gap between like people who have, like you guys say, have the spiritual connection side of it, and also the people who look at it and go, oh, well, that's just baloney. But if we're open and honest about it with not only each other, and we work together to build upon the science that it is, just like we're doing tonight, then at the end of the day, everyone is benefits.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is being truthful with your evidence going through, because I know one of the biggest things we go through is double checking, triple checking, having multiple sets of eyes on everything to make sure there's no contamination, that it's not something that could be caused by like conditions in wherever we're at. Like something that we ran into was a pretty large, loud air conditioner at one of the sites that we went to. That we thought might have been causing some of the things. But just doing your due diligence and checking your evidence and making sure that what you're presenting is truthful and factual. Because whenever you go out there and like in these shows, we're like, oh, what's that noise? Like, what's that sound? And they're not double checking these things. And that just kind of discredits us. And makes it harder for people to actually believe in it for the science that it is. And I also think too, I'm not sure if it would go into ethics or not, but something that we like to do too is share evidence with other groups. We're more so towards presenting things to prove that the paranormal are there instead of hoarding evidence for ourselves, like you had mentioned earlier with the paranormal, with the ghost hunters, where this is our evidence. We're going to present it as ours. We want the money. We want whatever. We like to share and just kind of help build on research.
Yeah, I mean, like we have a couple of people that we're super close friends with, me and my wife, that also do this. And anytime we catch something, we're like, hey, check
Yeah.
this out. Like, what do you think this is?
Yeah.
Because like they may hear something completely different, or if we have we present something to somebody and they go, well, that's really cool, but did you hear this, or did you see this, that kind of thing. And it's just like, oh no, because it's perspective.
Yeah.
And the more eyes and the more ears and the more people you have working on something, the better and the more clear and the more losing the word, but
concise.
Yeah, concise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything becomes.
Yeah, and I like that question. I think it's a really professional and meaningful question, and I think that what we do, kind of as War Party team, and bringing it and making sure that when we do our public events that we're very professional, we're very polite. We show people the proper practice, and we share a lot of our stuff on social media. And we also make sure that if we debunk it, that we don't post it. We won't post anything that we don't feel is 100% legitimate. Even though sometimes, at first you might get super excited that you capture something and it might be a little disappointing when you debunk it, but we won't post it. And I think also the main thing is what you're doing here, bringing people together, talking, putting this out in public, and showing how our field really deals with things and not like what you see dramatized on television and stuff. Just like the other day I saw actually, I don't want to mention any names, but a really popular and somebody that was into the paranormal community for a long time and well-respected person do a spirit box section about Gabby Petito, the girl that's been missing, and they just found her remains. It's a live ongoing investigation right now. And I mentioned to him, I said, I feel this is pretty disrespectful. Her family's on social media, and I think it's a little distasteful. And they removed me from the group and blocked me for that, for saying that I feel this is a little disrespectful. And I said it very, very politely, and it was just my opinion on it. But I think that if you see something like that, we should, say it, tell it how it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, we definitely do need to speak up so that way people don't think that sort of thing is acceptable, because we do need to respect the dead just as much as we respect the living, if not more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they were people once too, right?
Yeah. No, I mean the poor girl was just found. The family hasn't even had time to cope with it, and people are doing things like this to get clicks. And I just don't think it's right.
Yeah. Bad timing.
Shelly, Mike,
What?
or Shelly. Mike, I know your opinion on it, but Shelly, what do you think would bring back ethics to paranormal investigating?
Well, I think we kind of touched on a lot of it already, but I know with my group, I really emphasize to them to be very respectful to the spirits. Okay. Also, too, to be very respectful to the houses or the buildings that we go into. Yeah, that's basically what we do. Like, we treat them how we would want to be treated, even though they're spirits now. They were still people at one time. And I really, really emphasize that to my group. Like it drives me crazy with the paranormal groups on TV. Like you said, everybody has said, where they go in and they really irritate the spirits, or, they do all this stupid stuff. And I can just imagine what the spirits are probably thinking, right? Like, so we don't do any of that stuff. Some people do, that's fine. But I really emphasize to my group to be very respectful.
Yeah.
Mike?
I keep getting EVPs. I keep getting EVPs. I can't wait to go over the recording because I keep getting EVPs on my side.
Well, there's been a couple of the entire episode.
I actually heard. I thought it might have been one of somebody's TV on in the background.
No, we sometimes you hear the echo of us speaking through someone else's speakers. Whoever's talking, you might hear the echo of it. But I've been hearing different things from every area. It sounded like someone said "enter" a female or something. a while back. I think coming from I want to say Spooky Squad. Somewhere I think it was coming from your area, because usually if you look at the screens, I don't know how you guys have your Zoom meeting set up, but the yellow bar will be around whoever was speaking, or you see the face that was speaking. And I heard that like an enter or something like that on your little screen. So you might have a person there. So
So back to that attachment question.
yeah.
And that's funny because in the beginning, Shelly did say she thought there was a female presence there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guarantee this is probably gonna be, and then we'll let everybody know how much every piece we caught and stuff like that.
I'm interested to see what y'all get, especially coming from my end, because we have a few objects here that have stuff attached to it. So
I do appreciate everybody coming on. I love the answers from everyone, and everyone's opinions and stuff when it comes to the paranormal investigating. That's why I kind of want to put this together. And me and my wife Megan, we wanted to, because like I said in the beginning, we've made so many associations with different people from surrounding the paranormal, and we kind of want to hear everyone's opinion at one time. When it comes to this, and hearing other people talk to each other, maybe people have never met each other and never even thought about talking to other paranormal investigators and stuff like that. I know it's hard to come across different paranormal investigators in places, because sometimes they get territorial depending on where you live and stuff like that. Which again brings back to the point of bringing ethics back to the paranormal investigating, not being territorial in places like that, and working with other paranormal teams and anybody else in the field. But everything sums up in a sense that people, dead or alive, are still people, and helping them out to cross over, because sometimes, like I said, they don't know they're dead, and they're lost, or they're being held back by a darker entity and being bullied or almost entrapped. And the purpose, I think, of every paranormal investigator, especially when you dwell in the investigation paranormal, is to bring this taboo subject into the light, to make it get taken seriously, and bringing ethics to the paranormal, like I said, helps us do that, because like we've experienced a lot of crazies in the paranormal community, and there's a lot of people that just do it to get popular and gain views and get likes, and basically do it for clout in a sense, essentially. But I do appreciate you all coming on. And I think we'll cut it off slowly there. I guess before we go, I'll start with Shelly. Where can everybody find you?
I'm on Facebook, Ghost Hunters Paranormal Experiences International, and I'm also on Instagram, the same title. I also have another group. It's called Spiritual and Paranormal Connections, where I have a web page on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. That is more spiritual based, more like developing their spirituality and things like that. But we do the paranormal there too. It's kind of tied together.
Yeah.
Spooky Squad, where can everybody find you? We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube and TikTok. Yeah. We're working on a TikTok at Spencer County Spooky Squad on all of them. After we do investigations, about a week after, we do videos up on our YouTube page going over all of our evidence and things like that. So
yeah, we do live streaming whenever we go over stuff and keep like an open discourse between the audience and us to just kind of, answer questions that people may have and make this, anybody can do this. It just takes an open mind to go in and do it for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, War Party Mike, where can everybody find you?
I'm mostly on Instagram, but I do post to YouTube quite often, and I'm on all social media platforms. But you can find me at FLA _ paranormal _ researcher. So Florida Paranormal Researcher, mostly on Instagram.
All right.
And don't forget War Party Paranormal on Facebook. We post all our upcoming events and stuff that we have going on.
And Kelly, where can everybody find you?
My blog is paranormalhousewife.com, and you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Again, it's Paranormal Housewife, and on Twitter, it's Paranormal HW. And I also have a YouTube channel as well under Paranormal Housewife.
Awesome. And Mike, where can everybody find you?
Right here.
Well, yeah.
No, I do have it's called Angelic Drum on Facebook, Instagram, and also Shadow Walker Paranormal, of course, with Isaac up here.
All right. And as always, guys, you can check our social media, the Hidden in the Shadows podcast, Instagram, Hidden in the Shaw 6 on Twitter, Hidden in the Podcast 2 on TikTok. I wasn't doing a Boston accent. That's how it's spelled. Or you can link to all our social medias at hiddentheshadowspodcast.com, where it's links to our social medias, ways you can listen to the podcast, and also links to our merch store. Once again, I do thank everyone for coming on.
Yeah, it's
Thanks
been
so
a
much for
blessing.
having us.
Nice
Thank
meeting
you. Thank
Nice
you.
meeting
Thank you for
everybody.
having us.
This has been
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been great.
great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And we'll catch your weirdos in the next one.